She wasn't just Wonder Woman's aunt, she was a force of nature in her own right. Born of divine will and shaped with purpose, Antiope rose alongside her sister Hippolyta as one of the original Amazons. These were women not simply born but forged by the gods themselves. Where Hippolyta radiated regal strength and measured grace, Antiope burned with raw fire. From her first breath, she was a blade unsheathed, passionate, defiant, and fiercely relentless. Even in the earliest days of Amazon society, Antiope stood apart. She had no patience for quiet councils or abstract philosophy. Her truce lived with the snap of bowstrings and the clash of blades. While others trained, Antiope mastered. She transformed combat into choreography, strategy into art, not driven by bloodlust but by an unshakable urge to protect her sisters, her values, and a world she believed could be reshaped through unity and strength. Yet Antiope was more than just force and fury. Beneath the muscle was a razor-sharp wit and a soldier's practicality. She challenged rules not for rebellion's sake, but to sharpen them, refine them. Her questions were forged in logic, not ego. Her bond with her sister Hippolyta ran deep, though it did spark friction as often as it forged unity. Where Hippolyta led with diplomacy, Antiope wielded blunt truth like a spear. They were opposites, but they were still together. They were balanced, one with a shield and the other the spear. One of her most defining acts was when she chose truth over tradition. Hercules came to the island of Themyscira, not as a guest, but as a deceiver cloaked in charm. He honeyed words and feigned respect. He won Queen Hippolyta's trust, only to betray it with chains and fire. In a single night of treachery, he and his men shattered the sisterhood of peace and bound the Amazons into slavery. After the betrayal and the fight that followed, Antiope couldn't stand with her sister anymore and worship the gods after what had happened. She broke away with the loyal faction, carving out her own mission to continue fighting injustice in a world beyond paradise. It was a decision not made lightly, but it defined her for generations of Amazon who saw strength in not just honor, but also in resistance. This path brought her back into the world of men, a complicated choice for any Amazon. But Antiope never gave up her ideals. She didn't enter the world as a follower, but as an equal. And when love found her, it was with a warrior who honored both her sword and her voice. This wasn't a damsel's tale though. It was a bond between two fighters, forged through shared battles, hard truths, and a deep understanding of what loyalty and sacrifice really meant. Despite all of her victories, all of her heroics, it was her final stand that defined her. Proof that even in death, Antiope chose principle over survival, and left behind not just a legend, but a standard to live by. After Antiope left Themyscira with her loyal Amazons, she found love with Theseus, the legendary Greek hero and king of Athens. Despite the long-standing tension between Amazons and men, she believed that a new future could be built on alliance and trust. But it would be that trust that would cost her everything. The blade may not have been Theseus' own, but the betrayal was his to bear. In various retellings, it's suggested that he stood by while others conspired against Antiope, or that he allowed political pressures and ambition to make her expendable. In some versions, it's actually Theseus' court that arranges her assassination. It's not known if it's because they were jealous or if they saw her as a threat, but one way or another, Antiope is struck down, not in battle, but in the heart of the city she helped defend, and by the very people she tried to stand beside. Antiope's death hit like a war drum's final beat. She didn't go quietly, she stood defiant against corruption, choosing to die on her feet rather than bend a knee. For the Amazons, her death wasn't just a loss, it was severing. In that moment, it reinforced why they withdrew from the world of men in the first place, and for Hippolyta, it was a wound that never quite closed. Her sister's death became a cornerstone of the Amazonian memory, a warning etched in blood and silence that trust can be lethal when given to those who worship power more than honor. Antiope's story doesn't sprawl across 1,000 issues, but it doesn't need to. Like a well-placed arrow, it flies fast, hits hard, and leaves something permanent behind. She's a warrior, yes, but more than that, she's the embodiment of conviction. Her strength wasn't just in her sword arm or her battlefield prowess, it was in her choices. She challenged authority when it grew complacent. She loved fiercely, even when the world warned her not to. She took the risk of trust and paid for it with her life, and yet none of that made her weak. It made her real. Antiope shows us that there's no shame in choosing your own path, no weakness in trust, even when it breaks you, and that there's no greater honor than standing up again and again for what's right, especially when the world looks away. Antiope may have fallen, but her spirit never did. She lives on in every warrior who meets the world with a steady gaze, unshaken will, and a heart that refuses to break.